Your grammar is correct, your vocabulary is solid, your pronunciation is clear, but something still feels wrong.
When you speak English, people understand you. They follow what you are saying. But you do not sound like a real person having a real conversation. You sound like a textbook being read out loud.
Native speakers notice it immediately, not because you are making mistakes, but because you are speaking too correctly, too formal, too precise, like a robot programmed to follow perfect grammar rules.
And the strange thing is, native speakers break those same grammar rules constantly. They cut words short, they blend sounds together, they use informal expressions that never appear in any textbook.
Today, we are going to show you exactly why textbook English sounds robotic and three specific changes that will make you sound instantly more natural and human.
Welcome to Easy English Learning. I'm Clive.
And I'm Belen. By the end of this episode, you will understand the invisible rules of natural English that no course ever teaches. Let us get started. Clive, I want to start with something that might surprise our listeners. When you first started learning English seriously, did you ever get feedback that your English sounded too formal or too stiff?
All the time, and it was incredibly confusing because I thought formal and correct were the same thing. I thought speaking properly meant speaking like a grammar book. So, when people told me I sounded stiff, my response was to study grammar even harder, thinking that would fix it.
And did studying more grammar make you sound more natural?
Not at all. It actually made it worse, because the more grammar rules I memorized, the more careful I became about following them perfectly. So my English became even more rigid and textbook-like. I would say things like I do not know instead of I don't know, or I am going to instead of I'm gonna.
Technically correct, but completely unnatural.
Exactly. And the breakthrough came when someone finally explained to me, natural English is not about perfect grammar. It is about rhythm, contractions, connected sounds, and casual expressions. Once I understood that, everything changed.
So, sounding natural is actually about breaking certain rules in specific ways.
Precisely. And those specific ways are exactly what we are teaching today.
So, Clive, let us help our listeners understand why textbook English sounds so unnatural. What is actually happening when someone sounds robotic in English?
The easiest way to understand it is this. Imagine someone learning to play piano by only reading sheet music and never listening to actual music. They can hit every note correctly. The timing is precise, the technique is perfect, but it sounds mechanical, lifeless. Because real music has something that sheet music cannot show: feeling, flow, and natural human expression.
So, textbook English is like sheet music, technically correct, but missing the human element.
Exactly, and that human element in English comes from three specific things that textbooks almost never teach: contractions, connected speech, and filler words.
Can you explain what each of those means in simple terms?
Of course, contractions are when we squeeze two words together into one shorter sound. I am becomes I'm. Do not becomes don't. I would becomes I'd. Native speakers use contractions almost constantly in casual speech. Learners who avoid contractions sound immediately robotic.
So, always saying I am going instead of I'm going makes you sound like a formal robot, even though both are grammatically correct.
Precisely. The second thing is connected speech. This is when sounds blend together between words. Native speakers do not speak word by word with clear gaps between each one. They blend words into smooth phrases. Want to becomes wanna, going to becomes gonna, got to becomes gotta.
so the words run together instead of standing separately.
Exactly. And the third thing is filler words. These are small sounds or words that native speakers use while thinking or pausing. Um, uh, like, you know, I mean. Textbooks tell you to avoid these, but real speakers use them constantly because they make speech sound natural and human rather than rehearsed and scripted.
There is a great idiom for this. Smooth seas do not make skilled sailors. It means perfection is not always what creates real skill. In English speaking, a little roughness, contractions, blended sounds, natural pauses actually makes you sound more skilled, not less.
Belen, I know you have a story that really shows this transformation. Can you share it?
Yes, and this one stayed with me because the change was so immediate and visible. Meet Lynn. She is 28 years old, a marketing manager from Taiwan working for an international company. Her written English was excellent, clear emails, professional reports, perfect grammar. But in video calls with colleagues from the US and UK, she constantly felt like an outsider. People were polite, but conversations felt stiff whenever she spoke.
So her English was strong on paper, but something was not translating into real spoken conversations. What was the specific issue?
Lynn described it like this: every time I spoke, the conversation seemed to slow down. People would nod politely and wait for me to finish. But when native speakers talked to each other, the conversation flowed fast and natural. I felt like I was interrupting the rhythm every time I opened my mouth.
Interrupting the rhythm. That is such a precise way to describe what robotic English does to a conversation. So, what changed for her?
The change started with feedback from a colleague she trusted. After one meeting, the colleague said, "Lynn, your English is great, but you speak like you are writing an email out loud. Try speaking like you are texting a friend instead."
Speak like texting instead of like writing an email. That is brilliant advice. So, how did Lynn actually apply that?
She started paying close attention to how her native English speaking colleagues actually spoke in casual moments: coffee breaks, quick hallway conversations, informal video chats. And she noticed three patterns that never appeared in any of her textbooks. First, everyone used contractions constantly: I'm, your, we've, can't, won't. Second, sounds blended together: wanna, gonna, kinda, sorta. Third, everyone used small filler words while thinking. Um, like, you know,
So, she was noticing the gap between textbook English and real spoken English for the first time.
exactly. And she made one simple decision. For the next 2 weeks, every time she spoke English, whether in a meeting, on a call, or even practicing alone, she would force herself to use at least two contractions per sentence and allow herself to say, when she needed a second to think.
And did people notice the change?
Within 1 week, a colleague commented, "Lynn, your English sounds so much more relaxed lately. It is easier to talk with you." Not because her vocabulary improved, not because her grammar got better, because her rhythm finally matched the rhythm of natural conversation.
She stopped sounding like a textbook and started sounding like a person.
So, how do our listeners make this shift themselves? Clive, let us give them three clear ways to stop sounding robotic and start sounding natural.
Tip 1. Replace every full form with its contraction when speaking casually. This is the fastest and easiest change you can make today. Whenever you are speaking English in a casual setting, with friends, in informal conversations, practicing alone, force yourself to use contractions for everything.
Can you give some specific examples of the most common ones people should practice?
The essential ones are these: I am, arrow, I'm. You are, arrow, you're. It is, arrow, it's. We have, arrow, we've. Cannot, arrow, can't. Will not, arrow, won't. I would, arrow, I'd. Should have, arrow, should've. Practice these in the mirror. Say 5 sentences using only contractions. Make your mouth feel the shorter, faster rhythm. That rhythm is what natural English sounds like.
And the key is contractions are for speaking, not necessarily for writing. In formal writing, full forms are still better, but in speech, contractions are the standard, not the exception. What is tip 2?
Tip 2. Learn the 5 most common connected speech patterns. These are sounds that blend together so often that native speakers do not even realize they are doing it. But learners who pronounce every word separately sound immediately unnatural.
What are the 5 most important ones to learn first?
Here they are: want to, wanna; going to, gonna; got to, gotta; kind of, kinda; out of, oughta. These are not slang. These are not wrong. This is genuinely how native speakers pronounce these phrases in natural speed conversation. If you say, I am going to go with every word separate and clear, you sound robotic. If you say, I'm gonna go, you sound human.
Practice saying those 5 patterns 10 times each until your mouth does them automatically. That is the sound of real English. What is tip 3?
Tip 3. Give yourself permission to use filler words. Most learners have been taught that filler words like like, and you know are bad English and should be avoided. That is terrible advice for sounding natural,
Why is that advice so harmful specifically?
because when you forbid yourself from using filler words, you create long, silent pauses every time you need a second to think. And those silent pauses feel awkward and unnatural in conversation. Native speakers use small filler sounds to keep the rhythm alive while they think of their next word. Saying, I think, we should probably, start the meeting sounds far more natural than saying, I think, silence. We should probably, silence, start the meeting.
So, fillers keep the conversation flowing smoothly instead of stopping and starting.
Exactly. The key is balance. Too many fillers sound sloppy. Zero fillers sounds robotic. A few natural fillers sounds human. And there is an idiom that fits here. The perfect is the enemy of the good. It means chasing perfection often prevents you from being effective. Robotic perfect English is less effective in real conversation than natural imperfect English. Vocabulary section. 4 words from today. Belen, let us walk through them.
And listeners, make one sentence with one of these words out loud or in the comments. That is how you own these words. Word 1, contraction. A contraction is when 2 words are combined into one shorter form. Examples: don't, I'm, your, can't. Contractions make English sound natural and relaxed instead of formal and stiff. I always use contractions when I speak casually because they make me sound more natural.
Word 2, rhythm. Rhythm means the pattern of sounds and pauses in speech, like the beat in music. Natural English has a specific rhythm created by contractions, connected sounds, and stress patterns. Robotic English lacks rhythm because every word is pronounced separately and equally. When I started paying attention to rhythm instead of just grammar, my English started to sound more natural.
Word 3, blend. To blend means to mix things together smoothly so they become one. In connected speech, sounds blend between words. Want to blends into wanna. Blending sounds is what makes native speech flow naturally. Native speakers blend sounds together naturally. I am learning to do the same.
Word 4. Filler. A filler is a small word or sound used to fill a pause while thinking or hesitating. Common fillers in English, like, you know, I mean. Fillers make speech sound natural and human instead of rehearsed. I used to think filler words were bad English. Now I know they actually make me sound more natural.
One word, one sentence, right now. And say your sentence with a contraction in it. That is sounding natural in action.
Belen, bring everything together before we finish.
Here's what we learned today. Sounding natural in English is not about perfect grammar, it is about rhythm, flow, and the small informal patterns that real speakers use every single day. Contractions, connected speech, and filler words are not mistakes. They are the sound of real human English.
3 changes to make starting today. Use contractions every time you speak casually, and let your mouth feel the faster rhythm. Learn the 5 common connected speech patterns and practice them until they feel automatic, and give yourself permission to use filler words like and like when you need a moment to think.
And remember Lynn, her grammar was already perfect, but she sounded robotic until she learned to break the rules in the same way native speakers do. Not random breaking, strategic breaking, the kind that creates natural rhythm instead of destroying it.
Your English does not need to be more correct. It needs to be more human.
Write a sentence in the comments using at least one contraction. Show us your natural English voice. And if you are feeling brave, use gonna or wanna in your sentence too.
If this episode changed the way you think about natural English, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who sounds too formal or too textbook when they speak.
This was Easy English Learning. I'm Belen.
And I'm Clive. Keep flowing, keep blending, and we'll see you in the next episode. Until then, speak naturally and speak confidently.